Even though he's having a rather rough season by his terms, there's no doubt that Anthony Davis is one of the best big men in the league, and he's been doing it for nearly a decade now. Originally the defensive superstar with offensive star potential, Davis quickly developed his game down in the Big Easy, bringing a rather subpar team off a recent rebrand to a much-needed playoff appearance. And while there was never any thought the Pelicans would do much in the Western Conference, AD showed his impact on the franchise and his dominance on both sides of the ball. With a crazy long wingspan, impeccable timing, and a quick, agile body for a big man, Davis shows just how dominant a player can be when you put skill to athleticism. Today we're going to dig into how he conditioned his body because we're talking about Anthony Davis's insane diet and workout. Before we get started, we'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button so you can help us put out more content. Without further ado, what fuels the brow? Much like last year, back in 2012, the Pelicans, then Hornets, were fortunate enough to snag the first overall pick with a generational type big man leading the ranks of rookies. So come draft night, AD was an easy choice. But that doesn't mean he was the perfect prospect. With still somewhat raw offensive abilities and a slender frame, the team and Davis knew it was time to get to work and begin the process of reaching his potential. By his second season, AD was already starting to put the offensive game together, and with an already superior sense of timing and effort on defense, paired with his extendo arms, he earned his very first All-Star selection. But after his third year in the league, Davis began taking more and more minutes at the center position, matching up with opponents he was more often than not quicker and more skilled than, but not necessarily stronger than. So with that in mind, strength and conditioning coach Jason Summerlin and AD sought to change that. And according to Summerlin, the step to this transformation had to come by his diet. As Summerlin commented, "Our first phase was portion control. I wanted Anthony to eat more than he does, actually because that's the only way he gains weight. You have to get more protein, more calories. He's never going to cut out pizza, but I finally got him to eat seafood for the first time ever. He had salmon. He also has a chef now, so he's become more adventurous when it comes to food in his diet. Changing his diet is a huge thing and probably half the battle." And while his pizza habit wasn't out the window, Davis was able to counter the poor diet choice with the great protein and vitamins that come with seafood and other light proteins. Along with his elevated workout that we will talk about later, Davis was able to add 12 pounds going into next season while still maintaining his 10% body fat. And with that new strength in part due to his revamped diet, Davis was able to take his game to the next level, bumping up his scoring totals to 28 points per game during the next two seasons, one of which David led New Orleans to their first series win in 10 years when they swept the Blazers. Unfortunately, the Pels would never be able to get past the shadow of the dominant Warriors who crushed them after their inspiring first-round sweep. And as we all know, one thing led to another and AD ended up splitting from the team and pairing up with LeBron in LA, winning a title in his very first year with the team. But it turns out Davis may have gotten a little too comfortable coming off his first ring. When talking about his time off during the pandemic, Davis told reporters, "I was so fat, I was eating burgers every day." Now, he did say this with a smile on his face, and by the time training camp rolled around, AD looked just as healthy as always. But even if a sliver of this is true, it wouldn't be so hard to believe, as Davis has consistently struggled with his health this season. That may be why that during the beginning of the season, he did reveal that he turned to LeBron's nutritionist, someone who has experience with feeding one of the greatest athletes ever. So even though he's continued to struggle with injuries throughout the year, along with a rusty comeback, AD is starting to pick it up heading towards the playoffs. But that's enough about his diet. Back during that vital weight gain AD had in 2015, it wasn't just from what he was eating. He was hitting the gym consistently, seeing gains in quick periods of time. And when fans and the media noticed Davis was bigger in the season prior, Summerlin told the media, "He's been lifting consistently, doing all the small things perfectly and efficiently. We are more consistent with his lifts and his corrective exercises. He lifted a lot more weight. He's stronger than he's ever been." AD was vocal that his main goal over anything else that offseason was to get stronger, and the workouts he was doing proved it. A bevy of dumbbell workouts included one-hand presses with increased weights, flies, and bent-over rows. But it wasn't just dumbbells he was working with. He was also consistently working on cable curls and flies, barbell curls, and dumbbell squats. One particular picture of AD doing a squat is what really caught the media's attention to his off-season gains. And of course, there were the basics that he was doing. Push-up and sit-up variations, Supermans, planks, anything and everything to strengthen his core and beef up his upper body. And this was vital, as for the next few seasons, AD was playing more and more at the center position, even being officially labeled as a center for the time being. He also has the skill and versatility, but now could dominate the paint with the biggest guys in the league while not letting them push towards the basket on the other end. But AD's most unique skills for someone his size stems from his ball handling, shooting, and versatility on defense, so don't think just because he started lifting weights he was done with working on the rest. And since his time in New Orleans, Davis has stated he's more comfortable at the power forward position, and maybe that suits his unique skill sets the best. That's why while he's always working on his body, he's consistently working on his intangibles too. Being one of the best ball-handling big men in the league didn't come from nothing. Before AD hit a massive growth spurt in high school, he was a point guard, familiar with handling the ball and the work that goes into it, and that hasn't slowed down even though LeBron is facilitating most of the offense. During his on-court workout sessions, one of the first things Davis works on is his dribbling, often doing different variations with 2 balls, crossing over, tossing one to himself or a trainer, and all while mobile. It's really something you see more from players like Curry. Then it's time to put it into use, setting up in one of his favorite spots, the high post. Aside from LeBron, the biggest part of the Lakers' offense is often throwing the ball to AD at the elbow or foul line extended and let him get to work. So the first thing he works on is getting to the basket from this spot. Using his shifty ball handling and agility that he's been working on, Davis only needs to create an inch of space to get to the rim, as he's often able to power through or extend over the offense. But where Davis has really improved over his career is in his off-the-dribble jumpers. He puts much pressure on interior defenses that they often pack the lane, meaning his best looking is often coming from the 1 or 2 dribble pull-up. So during these on-court workouts, Davis is constantly working on his jabs, crossovers, and his mechanics to make his pull-up game smooth and fast, something that haunted opponents in the bubble last year. Coming off a championship season, it seems that AD doesn't really have a hole in his game. From here on out, the focus should be elevating the areas that he's already good at and making him great at them. And maybe the most important thing for Anthony Davis and the city of Los Angeles is to simply stay healthy. Because when the brow is 100%, there's not much the opposing teams can do to stop him. That's it for today. What do you think about Anthony Davis's diet and workout?